Cybersecurity. For a lot of us, that word just brings up these images of like super complex code and shadowy hackers and hoodies. But what if I told you that staying safe online is way less about being some kind of tech genius and way more about building just a few simple, really powerful habits? All right, let's just dive in and pull back the curtain on digital defense. So, let's kick things off with a number that might actually surprise you. According to Verizon's latest research, a staggering 60% of all data breaches involve what they call the human element. What that really means is that our daily habits, the choices we make every single day, they're probably the most important piece of the entire security puzzle. But I totally get it. So many of us think, this can't happen to me. Only important or rich people get targeted. And that is one of the biggest myths in cybersecurity. The truth is, criminals are using automated tools that just scan the entire internet looking for any weak spot. It's not personal, it's a numbers game. So the big takeaway here, we're all potential targets. Okay, so before we can start building up our defenses, we really have to understand the landscape, right? We need to know what we're up against. So let's take a little tour of what I like to call the digital danger zone. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. Right now, the average cost of a data breach for a company is $4.44 million. And that number, well, it shows us why this isn't just a personal problem. It's a huge economic issue that affects the businesses we all rely on. Which, of course, brings us to the big question, doesn't it? How in the world are you supposed to protect yourself without being a security expert? How can we all build a solid defense without just getting totally overwhelmed by all the technical stuff? Well, here's the good news. Experts have already laid out a simple, super effective roadmap for us. So let's walk through it. Let's build your cybersecurity game plan. And here it is. This is the cybersecurity framework from NIST. That's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And look, it just breaks everything down into 5 common sense steps. Identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Think of it like a simple routine, kind of like a mental checklist for your digital life. We're going to go through this step by step. All right, let's start at the beginning with the first 2 steps. These are the proactive ones. This is all about laying a strong foundation. This is how we start building your digital fortress. So, step 1 is to identify your assets. I know, that sounds a little corporate, but it's actually really, really simple. You can't protect what you don't know you have, right? So we're talking about your laptop, your phone, all that important personal and work data you've got, and the key apps you use every day. Just thinking about what you have is that critical first step. Now we get to my absolute favorite concept, cyber hygiene. The analogy is just perfect. Just like brushing your teeth, cyber hygiene is all about those simple, regular habits that we practice to keep our digital life healthy and prevent problems later on. It is not a one-time fix. It is a routine. So what does good cyber hygiene actually look like? Well, it all starts with these 3 big habits. First, keep your software updated. Why? Well, those updates often have crucial security patches for brand new flaws that hackers are literally trying to use at that very moment. Second, use strong and unique passwords. And third, wherever you possibly can, turn on multi-factor authentication, or MFA. That's when you need a second code to log in, usually from your phone. It's kind of like having 2 different locks on your front door. I mean, we hear use a strong password all the time, but what does that really mean? A truly strong password isn't just a long word. It's a mix, a jumble of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. The more random it looks, the better. It needs to be something that's hard for a computer to guess, but still manageable for you. And honestly, a password manager is the best way to do that. All right, so our fortress is built, the walls are up. Now we need to be on the lookout for anyone trying to sneak in. So let's move on to the detect phase and talk about spotting the intruders. And the number 1 way criminals try to get in is through phishing, basically trying to trick you into giving them your keys. And the scale of this problem is it's mind-boggling. In the first 3 months of 2025 alone, security groups logged over 1 million different phishing attacks. That's exactly why being able to spot them is such a critical skill for all of us. So how do you spot a phish? Let's break down the most common red flags. First, be really wary of urgent or unusual requests. Anything that tries to create a sense of panic, like final warning. Second, always, and I mean always, hover your mouse over a link before you click it. You can see the actual web address, and a lot of the time you'll see it's some mismatched, sketchy URL. And third, look for bad grammar or generic readings like "Dear Customer." These are classic warning signs. Okay, so what do you do when you think you've spotted one? It's a really simple 3-step process. Just remember, pause, don't rush, don't react. 2, verify. If the request feels weird, contact the person through a different way, like a phone call, to see if it's legit. And finally, 3, report it. Let your IT team know so they can protect everyone else. But let's be real. No defense is perfect. Sometimes an attack is going to get through. And that brings us to the final 2 steps in our framework, the aftermath and recovery. Step 4 is respond. This is all about damage control. And the absolute key here is to have a plan before anything happens, because trying to figure this stuff out in the middle of a crisis is the worst time. A good plan covers how to investigate and contain the threat, and who you need to notify and when. And finally, we have step 5, recover. The goal here is just to get back to normal as quickly and safely as you can. And yeah, that means fixing the tech stuff, but just as importantly, it's about updating your security plan with what you learned. A great recovery isn't just about fixing what broke, it's about understanding how it broke so you can become stronger. You know, if there is just one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Cybersecurity isn't about being perfect. It's not this impossible goal. It's simply about being prepared. It's about having a plan, practicing good habits, and knowing what to do when things eventually go wrong. So that leaves us with one last question to think about. After everything we've talked about, from cyber hygiene to spotting those phishing emails, what's the one simple habit you're going to start today to make your digital defense just a little bit stronger?